This is the Panther Experience Podcast from Springboro Schools, where we share meaningful conversations about the things impacting our community. So whether you're a lifelong Panther or brand new to Springboro Schools, we're glad you're here. Welcome back to the Panther Experience Podcast. I'm Erin Meyer, District Communications Coordinator here for Springboro Schools, joined by our Treasurer and CFO Terrah Stacy and our Superintendent Carrie, Hester. Episode 3. I mean, let's call it. We're going. We're building some steam. We're getting going here, and it's a big topic today that we're going to get into in just a few minutes. We told you about this in the last episode. Property tax reform in the state of Ohio is a big deal. It is affecting pretty much every public school across the state in some pretty big ways, and we really need to dig in and let people know if they've not been paying attention, and maybe separate some fact and fiction so people have the truth and have that transparency that we always want to bring. Before we dive into that, let's get into some good things we've been seeing. And one, I think we're all enjoying a little bit of more warmth in the air. The snow piles have been receding. I think they're almost gone in all of our school parking lots.
Normal snow days. School days. No more snow days.
Knock on wood, no more of those. We've had 6-ish of them and delays, and it's been a wonky start to the semester. That is more than usual, I would say, in that time frame.
Yes, we last year we had some significant snowfall coming out of Christmas break, but then it was gone. But to have 6.5 days, that's a lot.
And, as people are waiting, and are we having school, are we not, there is a lot going on behind the scenes to make sure that it's safe. It's not just in that moment, can we drive in it? Once we get on campus, there are a lot of issues, too, we got to make sure are in shape.
And that's why this past Friday we celebrated 38 Hester heroes, because they are what I call my 4 a.m. crew. We start that early in the morning on snow events, and custodians, maintenance, grounds, our mechanics, even something as simple on those cold weather days of starting our buses at 4:30 in the morning. We need everybody, and they have all showed up in so many ways over these past 6.5 snow days, and so I'm just so thankful, and our district is so thankful for as hard as they work. So they were the Hester Hero Group.
Yes, and they all got to come together in a nice warm space and enjoy some lunch together and not have to go out in the cold, which we appreciate them immensely. A few other something goods I wanted to tell you guys about, if you've probably seen them, but our viewers may not have. The art department at the high school, they always do incredible work. We had 33 different pieces of artwork from close to, I think maybe around 30 or so students on display at the Middletown Art Center for a Tomorrow's Artist Today exhibit that had different high schoolers from all over, and I think some middle school, our area, and we had 10 of those students win awards, and their work was incredible. We had drawings and paintings, we had sculpture. I'm always impressed because that artistic bone did not hit me at all.
Mine would never make the cut. So. Congratulations to them.
I know, it's impressive. We've had 16 student athletes recently signed for their college athletics, which is incredible. That is a big number. Everything from volleyball and soccer and 7 football, our boys basketball, 7th and 8th grade. This is the first year, I believe, that both of them won the GWAC in the same year. So we've got great stuff. Dance just went to Orlando. You can never hit everybody.
Spelling bee winners.
Oh, I love a spelling bee. Did you guys do the spelling bee?
I did it when I was younger.
You did?
Yes, I love spelling. So
did you win?
I don't think I ever won.
No,
but
I still remember the word I got out on in really? 6th grade or something.
I probably got out too early then.
Wow. It's embarrassing. We won't go there, but I know how to spell it now. It's for locked in now. And our band continues in indoor percussion. They are still doing different showcases and just got a first place at a competition recently at Trent Arena. So kudos to them.
Awesome.
We'd love to see it. Terrah, what's going on in the donation world? We also want to give some shout outs to the people who are helping us behind the scenes.
Absolutely. And we had so many the last time, and so we can't always name all of them.
Sure.
A few of them that we have received recently is the Springboro Festival Committee donated $500 to the Interact Club, as well as Blue Dog Bookstore, a local bookstore in our town, also donated $73. And so that was really helpful for them. That's part of the Rotary International Organization to help kids with leadership and showing that public service and giving back. And so that's such a great club. Also, Right Smiles Pediatric Dentistry donated $50 to the junior high show choir. So that was great. And then Jane Heidkamp, she donates pretty regularly to the student meal balance account to help students with their outstanding fees. So that was really nice as well.
That's awesome.
So we always appreciate the donations. And
how do people do it? If you're at home, you're watching this, you're like, oh, you know what? That might be something I'd like to do. What do I need to do?
Sure. Well, there's a few different ways you can donate. We have a donate button on our website, so you can just click on there and then select how much and what you would like to donate to. And then we also have the Springboro Education Foundation. So that foundation is set up to help support the schools in the community. And so you can go onto the Dayton Foundation and donate to the Springboro Education Foundation as well.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Okay, couple upcoming things. We have nominations due very soon for Project Excellence, February 28th. So we need people to take the time to nominate an educator here in Springboro that has maybe gone the extra mile. Maybe it's for your child. Maybe it is your coworker listening to this and you are a teacher and you know that your co-teacher goes above and beyond.
And it's a Warren County Award, and they have an amazing dinner that they're showcased in, and we every year have 2 teachers that win the award, and I believe they get $500 to use in their classroom. It's a great foundation that supports our educators.
The other coming up event that we wanted to tell you about is this junior high working really hard on Annie Jr. That musical, March 6th and 7th. It's at the high school auditorium. Do you know, I did not know this, Maple, the therapy dog at the high school, has a role, is in the acting debut.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Good.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Oh, that's
So, and I asked, I said, does she have to do anything like...
Annie has a dog. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think she
cool.
has to do anything too crazy, no big tricks, but she will be there, and she's been in rehearsal.
Okay, good. And I think we get a little preview at the next board meeting.
Yes, that's true.
Of a
Some
couple
the students
songs.
are coming to give us a little
Exciting.
rendition. Okay, well, let's dig in. Let's get to it. Property tax reform, kind of like a 101. So we want to answer 4 main questions today, I think. We've got some big changes. It's what is happening? Why is it happening? What is it doing? How's it impacting us? And what are we doing about it? What's going to happen? And so that's kind of the 4 main things we want to tackle today. So Terrah, broadly, what is going on? What is happening? And I know that's a tough one to answer.
Lots is going on. I mean, it's been over 27 years that I've been in public finance, and I've never seen a change or challenges that we're facing like we are today. And it's due because property values are increasing. They've been increasing pretty substantially over the last several years. So now the legislatures are trying to, put some sort of mechanism in place to provide some relief. And we all understand that as taxpayers. We all, would like to have taxes go down.
Yeah, as somebody who's been house hunting and looking at those property tax bills, you're thinking, oh my gosh, this seems really high.
Absolutely, and so we all appreciate that, but they also do need to fix the actual system, because what's happening is, they're providing property tax relief, but they're not actually providing reform to a structure where the state picks up more money. So until that happens, we're just going to lose dollars and have to still get them locally.
Mm-hmm. And let's think about this in the way that the state is kind of posing it as this reform. It's a person's house. Like, how much money am I going to be getting back through this?
So one of the tax bills that was passed, House Bill 186, has a 2-year provision where you would receive a reimbursement, and it'll be about $85 to $100 per $100,000 home.
Okay.
So we're not talking large dollars, and that's only a 2-year provision. After that provision, school districts will not be reimbursed for that. So for the first 2 years, the state will reimburse us those credits that are given to homeowners, and then after that, there is nothing in law that shows that they will continue that. So that would be a reduction to schools.
And let's get to that reduction. The school deficit becomes what?
It's about $2.5 million a year. Over our current forecast period, it's about $7.2 million. And it's a little tricky because the tax structure that's been in place for 50 years, we've been able to plan on that revenue.
Yeah.
And so our forecast prior to the property tax reform anticipated us to get about $6.4 million additional. And now, 4 months later, we're looking at our forecast for February shows we're going to receive $7.2 million less. So now we have a $13.6 million swing in a matter of a few months. And so now we're scrambling to try to say, okay, what can we do, and what are we going to do?
And I think it's really important here to just make sure that everybody understands it's, these bills were signed right around winter break time. It's not like
20th,
anybody
21st.
over Christmas break was saying, let's go spend all this money and come back with a $6 million hole. Everything was one way. These bills were signed and it changed everything. It's not something that our district or any public school district did wrong.
No, this is not a mismanagement of funds. This is not being reckless with how we spend our funds. This was nothing that we did wrong.
Yeah.
And, we knew that things were in the works, like that this was being talked about because you two were going to Columbus and trying to advocate. What does that look like? We hear we're advocating. Is that just showing up in a big room and listening? I mean, from what I understand, you're up there actually talking.
She is, yeah.
Well, it's interesting because, we submitted testimony as well to try to show some more detail because
Okay.
you only have a few minutes, and unless they ask questions, you're done. And so we wanted to articulate things that, on paper, so that we could show that. But when we were, using our voice, we answered every question that they asked, and we basically were trying to show them that we understand what you're trying to do, but this is how it's going to affect our schools, and this is where the system is broken. The system is broken because they're talking about funding in silos instead of talking about the whole structure, which is the state portion and the local portion.
Okay.
And it was, we went up to Columbus multiple times, but it's also, we were reaching out to local legislators in Warren County, in Hamilton County, in Claremont County, because everybody has a vote. And this isn't just affecting Springboro. This is schools far and wide in Ohio.
And we are very proud, I know as the treasurer, particularly proud of the way that we handle our finances. And we say often we are one of the lowest spending districts. What number is it?
Yeah, we are the 8th lowest spending district in the state, and we are actually among the top in performance. And so, one thing that I think we're especially proud of is there is no district in Ohio that actually achieved higher than Springboro and spent less per pupil. So they get the biggest bang for their buck here. And I feel like we're very frugal, and we scrutinize every decision, and we spend every dollar as resourcefully as possible. And so this is not us. We don't make the laws. We don't make the rules. We just have to live within them. And we're all kind of being faced with this at once. And there's a lot to come, I think. I think there's going to be a lot more attempts for additional changes. And again, we've talked about it before. We understand, but they need to fix the system.
And it's a really sad and concerning time in Ohio that they're offering relief, not reform.
Right.
And there is no talk of reforming funding for public schools.
Right.
And in 2025, we've recently learned that the voucher expansion provided over $1 billion to private and parochial schools, while public schools are not being funded constitutionally. It's very concerning.
Agreed.
When we talk about that, like looking at the pie and the funding, okay, let's break that down percentage-wise. Because, right, it's supposed to be 50-50. We're meeting in the middle here with the state and taxpayers in an ideal...
Yeah. Per the Ohio Constitution, it says it's a shared partnership.
Okay, not in an ideal world, but following the law.
Right. And so most people would think of a shared partnership as something close to 50-50, and that's not what we're seeing. Next year, we'll hit the lowest state share in Ohio history at 32%, coming from the state. And back in 97, during the DeRolf decision, the Supreme Court deemed the state funding in Ohio unconstitutional because it relied too heavily on local property taxes. And at that time when that decision came out, schools were funded at 43%. And now we're going to be at 32% next year. So they're providing relief, but they're not changing the system, which means they're not providing us additional dollars from the state side. So they still expect us to get it from the same community members that they are providing relief for. And
so it's this cycle, right?
Yes, is this going to make schools need to go back for more dollars more often?
Yeah.
So it's not fixing the system.
It is not.
It's just providing a temporary relief, and until they fix the system, we're going to be in this continuous cycle. And really, kids are the ones that lose.
Yes, the children truly lose out, and every child in Ohio should be afforded, whether it's their parents' choice to come to public or private, it should be an equitable education.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And even, not that we want to get too far into the voucher piece, but it's, there is a group that is trying, we're not part of that group, but there is a group that's trying to, overturn these vouchers, and now their state funding is being threatened. So it's kind of a wild time I feel like we're in right now.
Mm-hmm. It's taking a lot of focus to address this issue, and we talk a lot about, okay, here's this number. There's no panic, right? We can never, you all in your positions, panic doesn't work, right? When you're being the steady leaders of a school district that has 6,000 students and 700 plus staff members. So instead of panic, what has been happening? We're saying, here's what's going on. What is being done to look at this issue in a calm, steady way and handle it?
So we know that our number is $7.2 million over the next 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And we knew that number right after Christmas break. So Terrah and I have been very diligent about coming together and looking holistically at our district and where all the money is spent. Then we've brought in all of our departments. We've brought in our principals, really to set the foundation of knowing where all the money goes. And 2 weeks ago, we had a board retreat, sharing all that we've learned and educating our Board of Education, because we're going to rely on the 5 of them to really give us a good direction on how to move forward. It isn't panic, but it definitely is, we have to act, because we're just not going to have that money anymore. So we're looking at ways to cost contain, and we hope to develop phases so that we get the direction of the board at all times, the community is informed, and we problem solve together.
Yes, and she's so correct on that. And I think, in the past, we have benefited from reappraisals and the increases, because we've been at what's called the 20 mil floor. That was enacted in 1976 when House Bill 920 was put into place. And so that was also a time where property values were rising pretty rapidly. And so that was put into place so that as property values increased, they would roll back your tax rates so your revenue would stay flat and you wouldn't pay more and the schools wouldn't get more except for new construction. Well, they also at that time said, well, we understand there has to be a stable funding stream for schools, and so we're going to put what's called the floor in there. And so we'll allow tax rates to roll back as property values rise until you hit what's called the floor. And once you hit the floor, then you'll start to benefit from additional tax revenue as property values increase. Well, that hasn't been a big issue because there hasn't been a ton of schools on the 20 mil floor. Well, now, because property values have increased in the last 5-7 years pretty rapidly, lots of districts are hitting the floor. And so that's kind of what
including
is
us,
and we've been on the floor.
Yeah,
we've been on the floor for about 40 years, other than just a very small blip when we went through the housing market crash in 2008-9. But then we went right back to the floor. And so now that a lot of districts are hitting that floor and property taxes are kind of going up across the state, now all of a sudden these have been wanted to be addressed, which this system's been in place for 50 years. And so that's the challenge now, is that going forward, these 4 tax reform bills that were put into place are now going to limit growth continuously. So we are not going to see the increases that we have, and no school that's been on the floor is going to see those increases. And so that's why we say that will require us to go back more often and larger asks, because we're not going to be receiving those increases anymore. And so I think school funding is going to look quite different going forward until they fix the system.
And you and I have been talking about, when you do your forecast every single year, it's you don't know what's going to happen in the housing market. You can look at predictors and, histories, but you never know. And so it's always, okay, what are we going to need? And are we going to be able to have the dollars that we need? And every year for however many years, because these home values are going up, we've been getting that extra revenue. So that's what you're saying is changing.
Absolutely, and that's what's changing. So you all have heard me over time say we might need a levy within the forecast period because, kind of out there in your next reappraisals, you put estimates based off of what the county auditor provides, and they're pretty conservative. And so as we get closer to those reappraisals, we inch those dollars up, and then it pushes out the need for a levy. Well, that's not going to happen anymore. But I also think it's important to note that we knew and we communicated and we understood that our community's taxes were increasing because of those reappraisals. And that's why we have not asked for new money in 21 years. We have lived within those inflationary increases, which is part of why we're the 8th lowest spending district in the state. We knew their taxes were increasing, and so we did whatever we could to live within those means to not have to ask for more money. And so now we're at a place where these laws have changed, and so going forward, it's going to look differently.
If I'm listening to this and I'm saying, well, I just had on my ballot in November for a bond, that's different. And we just want to keep making sure that people understand operating and bond levies. They're very different things. They fund different things. So could you give us that clarification?
Yes, absolutely. Bond levies are for the construction and renovation of school facilities, and they can only be used to pay the debt for those purposes. And so we can't use this for anything else. And the 2.8 mil bond levy that was approved in November was actually a no increase in taxes. We have other buildings that are being paid off, and so as those are paid off, the bond millages roll back. And so we asked the community if we could keep it at what it is today, and then use the difference in those dollars to construct the new property of Pre-K2 building and then the other renovations in the district. Yeah.
And it's not, again, none of that
We are not
115
allowed.
million can go
No.
anywhere else than the things that's already sort of been allotted for.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. While we're kind of, I don't know, I feel like we're setting things straight, making sure people understand. We hear a lot in education, just misinformation, right? That
Yes.
schools are getting all kinds of money from different places. And we thought maybe we'd just pose a few of these to you while we're on this topic. We hear sometimes the lottery, the Ohio lottery. People are buying these scratch offs, they're buying their tickets, schools are getting all that money. What does that actually look like?
You're not getting it, are you?
No.
Okay. We're not getting
No.
it.
We don't get a check.
No, lottery dollars are just part of the state's general fund. So they get lottery dollars, cat tax, income tax, sales tax, all of those taxes go into the general fund. And then those dollars are then divvied out to all of the different things in the state, one of them being the state share of state funding. But that lottery amount, whatever it may be, is included in our 32% that we receive.
Okay.
So it's not additional dollars above. That 32% that we talk about is all of the state's dollars that we get for rollback and homestead credits that are now called the state share of local property taxes, any other reimbursements from the state, our state funding, that's all part of that 32% that we receive.
Okay. What's another one you hear, Carrie? Oh,
Casinos.
Casinos.
Yeah, more gambling.
Okay. So what about the casinos?
We get $73 per child for casino revenue, but again, that is part of that 32%. It's not additional money above and beyond the 32%. So when we talk about the state share, which again, we talk about the system, there's the partnership between local communities and the state. A partnership should be about 50-50. We're going to be at 32%. We as a district are already at 32%, but the state average will be at 32% next year. And so that's where all of these other, obviously the lottery does not come to us at all. The casino money does come to us, but again, it's part of the 32% that we receive from the state. It's not additional dollars above that.
Okay.
Another one that we hear a lot about is CCP, and that one, that's a great program. I mean, it's wonderful.
For people who don't know, CCP is?
College Credit Plus. So it's a great program. I wish they had that when I was younger. But we hear all over that, we're going to expand College Credit Plus. It's free. It's wonderful. It's not free.
We pay for that.
Yes, you pay for that.
Yes.
All taxpayers pay for
it.
Absolutely. So there's what's called unfunded mandates, and we know them all too well. They are basically mandates that the state tells us we have to do, and then they tie no funding to that. So this is one of those items that they require every public school district to do, and then we have to also pay for it. So it comes directly out of our local taxpayers' pockets. We were at over $500,000 a year at one point. It's definitely dwindled down a little bit. We're around $280,000 a year right now, the last few years. But again, there is no funding tied to it. So when you hear it's free, it's not free. Taxpayers are paying.
We've explained, I think, what is happening, why the state is doing it. They want to, or are saying they're trying to provide relief. We're giving the reality of what that's actually doing to schools, to students, and to our taxpayers. We've kind of talked about next steps and how we're really looking at the big picture and every little piece of the pie here in the district. And I think another big part of this is the communication piece, and we want to make sure that we are getting this information to folks. We'll be, stopping by buildings and talking to our staffs, and but it's something where we just really need people to understand that it is not a Springboro thing. This is not all over.
Hopefully, in future episodes, we'll share some calls to action, because it's going to take a lot of voices yelling up to Columbus that this is not right, and every child in Ohio deserves a equitably funded education. And not that we want to get into politics, but politics is right in the middle of schools now because of relief, not reform.
Absolutely, and that call to action will be very important,
Yes.
because they're not finished. There are several bills right now that have already been introduced that further some of these efforts. And again, we say it all the time, we're all taxpayers. We want relief, but they have to fix the system, because if they don't fix the system and the state doesn't pick up more of the share, then schools just have to cut or come right back to the community. And so the system needs to be fixed. The partnership needs to be closer to 50-50 as it was intended to be.
That's, I think, an excellent wrap-up and summary of it. And our voices, everybody's voices do matter. You said future. I think we should say it right now. People need to be contacting their local representatives, and we
Absolutely.
will link all of that information so people can find them. And, Public Schools Week is coming up as well. I don't think it's a bad thing for people to tell the world what public schools are doing for their students and their families.
I don't understand why public schools are being just gutted and made out to be villains. And I mean, every child in Ohio deserves an education. We need every child in Ohio to be educated.
Absolutely, and we're proud to serve every child in Ohio. And that's not everywhere. So it's alarming. I feel like public schools have been under attack, and I'm not really sure what we did, because we come every day and do everything we can to make sure kids have what they need to be productive members of society. So it's really sad, but we're fighting, and we're going to continue to fight.
And Terrah said, in almost 30 years in this reign, this is the biggest kind of situation like this that you have seen. And so it is real, it is a big deal, and it is something that is top of mind in the district and really across the state for public educators. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for listening into this. We hope that it gave a little bit of clarity to the situation, and that it's maybe helping dispel some myths or misinformation that's out there too. But this isn't a one-time thing and we're done. This will be something that we continue to communicate about in coming months. Absolutely.
And if our listeners have questions that we can educate them about, we want to share all the information that we possibly can.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can put them in future episodes. We would love to hear from you and to know what you might put questions that still are unanswered, or that you might want to know the answers to, and we're happy to share that.
Yeah, because really, so much with money and finance, it's we don't need it until we need it. Is how this is what it feels like, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, yes. It's nobody cares about money until there isn't any, or you're asking for more. So it's just one of those things. But I know it's not the most exciting topic, but it's very important because it allows us to do what we all do every day to provide for kids.
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, that's the root of how it all starts, is money.
Yeah.
Money and kids.
You cannot be seeing all these good things that we see without it.
That's right.
That's the truth of it. All right. Well, thank you again for listening. Thank you both for the great insight and explanations. And we'll see you for our next episode of the Panther Experience Podcast. Have a good one.